Sharon Morgan, age 71. Today's date is May 25th, 2021. My partner is Ed Siderewicz. Our relationship is he's my co-worker, friend, advisor.
My name is Ed Siderewicz, age 64. Today's date is May 25th, 2021. We are in Chicago, Illinois. Name of my partner is Sharon Morgan, a friend, work colleague, and wisdom figure. So Sharon, I was just thinking this morning and curious. We met and have been working together a good 20 years or so. And just curious, what was life like for you before we met? And how has life been different for you since we've met?
Life before we met, I was, doing great. I was working at the uh, parish, Our Lady Help of Christians, with Father Brigham. Before that, I had two kids. I was married. Um, you know, Typical Black family. Raised with a lot of not siblings. I'm an only child, but a lot of cousins and relatives. And I had a great job with Father Brigham. He was my rock, my mentor, and uh, washing our school clothes was a little difficult, but bringing yours in, San Miguel revived us a little bit, and we were doing really well. Since then, I've had a great life. Catalyst has afforded me just the most unbelievable career. I did everything. I've been community outreach recruiter, um, graduate support, parental person, and now, working in the theater piece with K-Ryan Center. So I've always felt I had a charmed life anyway, and it's just been charming. How about yourself?
And one more question, just curious. So when Jack and I showed up on your doorstep at Our Lady Help of Christians back in around the year 2000, two white guys showing up on the west side of Chicago that morning. What did you really think of us?
I really was hoping that you two would be the people that we needed to rent the building. Being the pastoral associate, I was in charge of showing the our shuttered school building to different people, and we had had two schools there already, which didn't work out. The people weren't good, the kids weren't good, the building was in disrepair, and so really, what I thought when I saw you two was, I hope this is a good fit for us, because I had told Father Brigham that I didn't want to rent it anymore, and I hadn't, showed it for a while. So I was really hoping that this would be a good fit, because the building needed some life in it. It was just an empty building, and it just made us realize every day that we didn't have a school. So
Yes.
that's what I was really hoping, and voila.
And here we are.
And here
we are 20 years later, and a few schools later.
Mm-hmm,
Right.
mm-hmm.
And then you took a little hiatus after our experience at San Miguel. And then what happened after that?
The hiatus was because I worked at Sears and they let everybody go.
Uh,
And then my mom had gotten, she had gotten sick. So um, once, I came back, once the parish closed, I was really sad and, like cut adrift. Like, okay, so what do I do? What do I do? And it was just by chance that I called you up, that night. I was just sitting at home and I knew about the community house, and just, well, let me just see what Ed's doing, because I hadn't heard from them. I hadn't talked to them. And just, I guess I was lonely that night, just sitting there thinking. And, that's what happened when I called you and you said, come on over. We're just sitting out in the yard drinking beer. And I'm like, okay, I'm up for that. So when I came over, the house was filled with, young people and everyone, which it usually is. It was such a great house. I really missed that house. Yeah. And, I just felt, live. And, I said, okay, I needed this tonight. It was really good. I'm glad I called. And then we sat out. And then that's when you told me about, you were thinking you all were, opening up the school and, doing the process of opening up the school. And did I want to help out? And I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm not doing anything, when you're on unemployment and you just, you know, I was just giving myself a breath. And so it was time to get back to work. So I was glad, I was happy. God always sends me, the right place. I trust in him. And he just sent me there that night.
So here we were at this community house of teachers, 8 teachers living in the house at the time, teaching at the school. Yeah. That was in the parish that you helped administrate there. Thinking about starting a new school, really, at the invitation of Arnie Duncan in the Chicago Public School District, to replicate our small private Catholic model into the public sphere, which then became the Catalyst Schools. And so you really, one of the foundresses, if you will, one of the founders of the Catalyst Schools in helping get those up and going. Mm-hmm. And I remember Arnie asking us to start here, where we're sitting right now, on the corner of Central and Washington. And there was a school here. There was a need to bring in a new educational program. We had an invitation. We submitted our RFP to Arnie in the Chicago Public School District, and he came back and asked us to open another school first in North Lawndale. and so we kind of just asked you to run with that and develop it and work with a small team. And we teamed together in getting that school up and going. And then Arnie agreed to give us this school over here the following year, which we did. So a lot of memories there in both North Lawndale as well as the Austin community here.
That opening up that school was such an eye-opener for me. It was something I've never done before, but every job I've had is something I've never done before. So, but that one was by far the most challenging. We didn't have a building, so I had to do everything from the 35th Street down by Sox Park. Yes. And trying to recruit parents and kids from 35th, working at that building, which was housing all the startup schools in the afternoon, and going to North Lawndale and walking the streets and talking to people and nailing things up on trees. And it was an eye opener. I love the community. I'm a West Sider, been on the West Side all my life, but had never been across Roosevelt Road because that's how it was back in the days. You just stayed on your side of town, and then they stayed on their side of town. And I grew up where we now call it East Garfield. So being on that side of town, I didn't know where anything was, and I used MapQuest, and people would laugh at me like, MapQuest, you lived on the west side all your life. I'm like, I never went on this side of the west side, but it really made me grow. I loved it. I loved working with Mike, who was the then principal, and just did everything. I was really gratified and thankful to you all for putting so much in my hands, and you didn't know if I could really do it, but you just trusted that I could. And then sometimes I just amazed myself that I did it, but it just worked out so well. Our grand opening was all we could hope for it to be, and the school was just great. It was wonderful, relationship building with the parents and teachers and just the community.
Great.
It was awesome. It really was awesome.
And then from there, after opening the school in North Lawndale, the following year, we did come back to Austin and open the school here, Catalyst Circle Rock. We took a fascinating story here, really, on this campus. We were invited to this campus by Glenn K. Ryan, God rest him, Glenn K. Ryan and Lonnie K. Ryan. who were the founders of Circle Urban Ministries. And I remember when I first came here to this corner, and Glenn walked me through this building. It's an old Catholic school building, St. Catherine of Siena. And I remember Glenn talking about the vision for this building and how he came here, he and his wife, Lonnie. And the way he described the stories was he was standing on one of these rooftops one afternoon in the late 1960s or evening with the civil unrest going on in Chicago and the West Side and fires blazing through the West Side. And I remember Glenn saying how their hearts were moved to begin a work of racial reconciliation. And so he and his wife, Lonnie, set out to found Circle Urban Ministries off of this campus back in the 1970s. And they've worked on this corner ever since. And since then have invited a second partner, a church, Rock of Our Salvation Church, about 10 years after they came onto campus. And then finally, they invited Catalyst onto this campus back in around the year of 2006. So we've been working off this corner doing the educational components since then. And so and then from there, we went on to found Catalyst Maria High School on the south side. And now we're working between Catalyst Circle Rock and Catalyst Maria. And then so what, Sharon, as you look back over those years, what's one or two what have we learned in the process? What have you learned in the process about life, about these communities, about these beautiful children and families on the west and the south sides?
One of the big pieces I think I learned is you can't be scared to reach out for what you want. So North Lawndale, that was a challenging period for us and for our charter schools because it was seen as not a good thing in neighborhoods because they thought bringing in charter schools would mean moving Black people out of these neighborhoods. And so, they made it a little scary at the beginning when we were going out into the community, but I'm fearless when it comes to something I want to do. So, just putting fears aside and, look, you either gonna join me or, I'm gonna fight you. That's the West Side spirit. We're fighters. We know what we want to do and we just go for it. And so same thing when I came on this side to Circle Rock School is, just going out, letting the people know that, yes, it wasn't your school, they could manage it, but, you have to trust in us that we still have your best interest at heart. And we had some, tense moments, but, I understand people fighting for their kids because I fight for mine also. Yeah. My kids didn't ever go to public schools and they always went to Christian schools. I'm a Catholic. So, just trusting, that God sent you the right people. That's what you have to do. And so that's what I, just start telling the people, telling the people from Circle Rock Preparatory School. Yes, I know you're scared. You're thinking it's not going to be a great school, but, just trust. We wouldn't come here if we didn't think we could do it. And your administrators wouldn't let us do it if they didn't think we could do it. So just give us a chance and, just work with us. And we have a duty to the Black children in Austin, just like in North Lawndale. We have a duty to raise them, to educate them, and to be a partner with you. And it's one thing I learned, from Christian brothers is relationship. Can't do anything by yourself. Don't even try it. You just always have to have people, around you. And the mark of a good administrator is letting people do their job. You just trusting them to do it. That's what we told them, and then that's where we are right now.
Can you, so today these schools, Catalyst schools, serving 1,600 students in Chicago public schools, operate as charter schools. And can you tell us one success story of what difference have these schools made in these communities? One student, one family, one hardship or trial that somehow this family of educators made a difference in the lives of these children and families.
Okay, I can tell you a great story. When you opened up, when we opened up San Miguel schools, we had a very challenging student, Ivory Davis. You remember Ivory Davis? Ivory Davis was just the if you can get Ivory on your side, you can get anyone on your side because he came from a very dysfunctional family. And actually, they were neighbors of mine. They lived next door to me. So I knew, what a important piece that was. We could get Ivory into the school and the change. And I think that was one of the things when we had the big summit with the Christian brothers deciding if they would go and have the Catholic schools. Ivory, they were like really on the fence. Oh, I don't know about this. I don't know. I don't know. But maybe, yeah, let's see. When Ivory got up and spoke and talked about how the Christian brothers and San Miguel helped him, that's, I think, is what drew them to say yes, because it was so passionate. And he talked about how his life was and how, before and how it was then. He had everyone crying because it was a sad story. I mean, he comes from a sad family. They're still battling, and that's a success story. And all of his siblings, except one, came to Catholic schools. The last one is graduating this June, Kayvon. Mom, you know, in and out of jail, her practically all the time we met. Grandparents raised Ivory and his brother and Duran and the two that came here, Kevin and Keviana, and Tiny, his mom, was just back and forth, back and forth. And she's still, trying to get her life together. But guess what? The two that went here, Kevin and Keviana, they're in college. Uh, Kayvon, I'm sure he will go. And that's the big success story for us, changing students' lives. And that's what, you always, preached into me and to everyone. And, we have the means to change kids' lives. We just have to be diligent and don't give up and keep at it because they're going to fail and then you bring them back. So, okay. So Ivory, unfortunately, he has, been in jail a couple of times, but he's out now. So, they don't live next door to us anymore because when the mom died, the grandmother died, they lost the house. So, but he's out. He's probably still doing Ivory things, but he's out. But Duran is, the second one. He's holding down a job. He has a family, but he's still out there. He's still, being Ivory.
It's beautiful. So I remember there's one piece of the story I'd like to. It's the newer piece of our story. I'd like to just spend a little time on and reflecting upon. So when Glenn Keyrine walked me through these buildings back around 2005, 2006, I remember him bringing this to this space where we're sitting right now. It was an unfinished auditorium. It was the high school auditorium that Siena All Girls Catholic High School used, which sat boarded up for nearly 50 years. The seats were pulled out of here. It was a beautiful structure, mid-19th century structure. There were some starts and stops ever since we came to campus here 15 or so years ago to find a way to get this beautiful space renovated and completed. And we had some starts and stops. And finally, I remember taking it to the Catalyst board, said, hey, we've got a little traction. There's an architect, Steve Saunders, from Econoff Saunders, who took it on as labor of love, developed a whole set of architectural plans for it. The Catalyst board said, fine, it's going to take $4 million. We figured out, they said, go raise $2 million, come back, we'll talk. We did raise $2 million in a matter of about 5 or 6 months. We went back and talked, hit the go button on it. And this beautiful space was completed right about 2 years ago now. And we probably call it the K-Rhine Center for the Arts to honor the legacy of Glenn and Lonnie K-Rhine, who really, on whose legacy we stand. So really our foundation here is a work of racial reconciliation. So can you talk about this process? And I know there've been some, just talk about this process a little bit. And what has this been for you? What has this been for this school community? What has this been for the west side of Chicago?
Labor of love. When we started here in this school, and we were only in the first building, what we call our primary building, we had a smaller group. The first year we had let me see, no, we had 13 graduates, remember? And we didn't have a place for them to graduate. And we went to another facility for them to graduate. And every year after that, we have not had a place for our kids to graduate, their own place. So my thought was, we need to get an auditorium for our kids. They deserve it, and we have a lot of fine arts, and um, we don't have a stage. We have a gym, and our kids, when we went to 60 kids, it was packed. It was too crowded to this. And we always had to take our eighth graders and have them graduate someplace else. And so every year the kids would say, Miss Morgan, when are we ever going to get a place to graduate? We can't keep graduating in the gym. And so then when we started the campaign, I was so happy because our kids needed a place to graduate. They needed a stage to walk across. They needed to have space for all of their people to come in, because we don't give tickets for graduation because it's a family affair. And our parents need to have some place that they're not all squished in and jockeying for position, and it was just when I started asking people to envision an auditorium for our kids where they could be proud of and could walk across the stage, and they could finally have something that other schools had. It was just a labor of love for me. I couldn't say enough about how it was needed. And then after the architect came and they started talking about the community piece, and then it all just fit together because our kids are part of the community. So they will grow up and be a part of Austin, and then they will come back and do things here. And that's what we always told our kids, you know, go out and be educated and come back to the neighborhood and change it, because you're the ones that have to do it. And so it's just been wonderful that we could open our doors up to people in the community. And we've had great success with the people in the community. We had a few acts in, we would have had many more, but COVID stopped us. But we the community is opening their arms to us, and the word is getting out. And you know I just sit here right now and look over our seats and look over the space and remember everyone that comes in, and it's just praises it, how beautiful it is, and how they never thought this could be something on the west side, and thanking us for coming up with it, and thanking us for letting them be a part of it. And it's not too much more I can say about that. Just happiness, pride, um, thankful, and grateful to be a part of this mission of bringing this theater to everyone.
And I know it's a home for our school orchestra, our Sistema Ravinia Orchestra. Can you talk about that a little bit? Our work with Ravinia, how that originated, what difference has that made in the lives of these students and community?
One of my many hats coming to the school was the director of fine arts, of Renaissance fine arts. That's what we called it. And I got the idea from San Miguel, because you all had uh, the teachers teaching fine arts at the end of class. And then our principal at that time, Sala Sims, and I decided we should have programs that were in school during the school year, during the school day, so that our kids could really appreciate it more. And it wasn't after school, it would be a piece of your curriculum.
Yes.
And that's how we started. So one of the first organization that we contacted was Ravinia because they had a Reach Teach program, and they came in and taught K through 3.
Mm.
Basic music skills, writing poems, um, body movement, singing. And when about 9 years ago, when Ravinia decided they wanted to have an orchestra program, they were looking for a school that would be able to house that health system or program that they wanted. And we were one of the schools that they reached out to asking, would we like to do it? And, would we be able to do it? And at that time, we had quite a few fine arts, organizations in the school. Chicago Children's Choir, we had ballroom dancing, we had jazz dancing, we had just, a full-fledged of acts. And Ravenna decided, Christine Taylor is the head of Reach Each Play, she decided that our school would be best to house the first orchestra. And also she wanted it in a African American school setting because she realized that if our kids can see it, they can do it. And so we're going into our 9th year with the orchestra, and it's just been wonderful. 4th through 8th graders without any kind of musical knowledge or not even inclination of thinking they could do it. But, all they have to do is give uh, time, 3:30 to 5:30 every day. Uh, Ravinia's, women's group takes care of everything, teachers, uh, bus trips and everything we need. They just take care of it. And it's been great for our kids. All of our kids go on to schools with great musical programs, and they're doing very well. We have a couple of standouts, but we're going to have more as we keep going and kids see that, yeah, they could do this. They don't need to be scared. The first year we did it, they were like nervous because they're like, oh, well, no, we can do it. But, just like everything else, we teach our kids to be fearless. You can do it, don't
Yes.
worry about it, and we'll help you, and then you'll get it done. And they've really gotten it done.
So you mentioned the pandemic as well, and so what happened with this space during the pandemic? And you mentioned there have been some events in here. Can you talk about that a little bit? And what stood out for you? And what really what resonated with the community here?
Well, during the pandemic, like everything else, we were shuttered, we were dark, and our Austin Renaissance Council decided that instead of having us have a dark space and just have this big, beautiful Ephesus just sitting here, that perhaps we would do streaming. We need to think about doing streaming network. And so they gave us the go ahead, and we got a streaming network so that we could just have the bare minimum of people, and then we could stream it out instead of having a live audience. We would just have a streaming to Facebook Live and YouTube. So the first thing that we had was the racial symposium, which was, wonderful, as you know. It's now going out to 3,000 people or more on Facebook, but we talked about community engagement, youth involvement. We had LaShawn Ford, our state representative, to talk about the importance of the community. You know, at times Austin can be a fractured community, but we're getting better, in coming together and being one community instead of different factions of a community. And I think that's important. And I think that KCA will get us there because it's bringing in all different types of organizations and all different types of people that ordinarily wouldn't talk to each other or would be apart from each other. But now we're beginning to work together. And when the mayor had her Invest Southwest, that brought in everybody from the West Side, and then people got to see each other and to talk to each other and to work with each other. And I think that's most important. And I think when we did the COVID, when we had COVID, and then everyone really started thinking about, well, I guess we can get together and do some streaming. We have had a few things with the streaming. The Black Panther movie. We had the advanced screening of Judas and the Black Priest.
Judas and the Black Messiah.
Black Messiah.
Yeah. Can you talk about that? And I just remembering that opened up 2 days. That was pre-screened here 2 days before it
Right.
opened up in theaters and HBO Max. Can you talk about that experience and why?
Yeah, that experience I think will be with me for a while because it was just so heartbreaking and poignant, but it was a great movie. But to hear his mom and his son talk about his life in the Black Panther Party as they saw it versus what we heard about it and read about it because they were firsthand people with it. Well, he wasn't,
Right.
but his mom was. And then
Yes.
hearing her story, it was just great. You know, she talked about how she met Fred and how they went to school together and how they lived together, you know, and it was so poignant. And the movie was, of course, you know, was excellent. It was excellent.
So we had on this stage Fred Hampton Jr.,
Yes.
son of Fred Hampton, who was killed in back in the 60s. We had his mother in this theater.
Right.
You got to meet both. Sharon, you lived through this experience, and now you're meeting the mother who would have been the partner of Fred Hampton and her son in this space. What is that like for you, having lived through that experience and then meeting them in person here? Are those two stories similar of what you lived and what you experienced in that moment?
Well, pretty much, you know, together. It was heartbreaking because we, you know, knew of the struggle of Black Panther Party of trying to do in the neighborhood, trying to make things better and not being able to. And I remember when he was killed, it was like, you know, how could that happen to a person who's trying to do good in the neighborhood? I think that set the backdrop for us thinking, you know, it doesn't matter if you're trying to be good, it's still some things that are out there, forces that will not let you, but that made Black people just know that you just have to persevere on. And sitting here, and because we don't know the whole story, you know, still, if you're not in the Black Panther Party, you don't really know exactly what, you know, the story is. And just hearing, what's her name, Akua, just talk about it, and it was heartbreaking. All over again, heartbreaking, you know, just seeing it. And I just went to her and I told her, you know, I just appreciate the strength that you have sitting here watching the movie and reliving your life again through film. I don't know if I could do it. I was just a nervous wreck. My
It's hard enough for us to sit through it.
stomach was in knots and I didn't even,
Oh my Lord.
you know,
Yes. That was so
experience
riveting.
it. It
So
was.
riveting. Yeah.
I just kept looking at her. I'm like, oh my God, is she going to be able to go through this?
Yes.
And at one point, she did tear up and start crying. I feel so sad. But, you know, she really thanked me and, you know, thank us for, you know, letting
We're
her
so
come
gracious.
here.
Yes.
Yeah, she even gave me her ring off her finger, just like a Black Panther ring. You know, it really was a special night.
Got to experience them as
Right.
real people and
Yes,
compassionate.
right.
Yes.
But you know, we've had some special nights here, and we're going to have a lot of special nights.
So talk about special nights. Just real quick, I know we've got Air Taxi Festival coming up in the fall. We have Dr. Eddie Glaude Jr. coming in here next month to talk about the book he wrote on James Baldwin
Yes.
and its relevance to the arts and some of the conversations going on in our country today. Can you just talk about some of those upcoming events?
Well, we're going to have an in-screening from One Earth in Oak Park, this organization, and they're going to talk about the food disparity in Austin. And because that's really, you know, we only have two grocery stores in all of Austin, which is so criminal. You know, how can you have a neighborhood if you don't have any stores to buy, you know, food? So we're on a really concerted effort with Austin coming together to, you know, rectify that piece. And so with that screening is coming up, we have an original playwright coming in 2 weeks from a person who grew up on the West Side, and he's now a producer. So I'm excited about that. Oh, we're having an what's it called? Yeah, the Black Opera. Oh, yeah, an organization. They're going to have a Black Opera on one of the songs from a hip hop artist, Nas. That's going to be something special. And one of the things, so this goes really deep into the community. We're having a 95th birthday for the owner of uh, Uncle Remus Chicken, who has been a staple on the West Side forever and ever. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be an all-day affair and have in the end a gospel tribute. And we've had JJ Harrison. Oh, we've just had everyone here. So some really exciting events coming up. Oh, Apollo Chorus, because they're going to come in and do a free concert.
Right. The Baroque music.
They're going to come in and do a free concert. And so I'm really excited because a lot of people that are coming to the West Side for the first time are doing free concerts for the community. And so that really energizes me because it makes me know that people want to come in and draw us in and then give the West Side people something to cheer about.
So in closing, I just want to recognize that in the lobby of our K. Ryan Center for the Arts here, there are 3 figures that are listed on what we call our wisdom wall. David Augustus, Glenn and Lonnie K. Ryan, and Sharon Morgan. So Sharon, which we affectionately call each other Doll. My wife Marcy calls you my work wife. The community recognizes you as a wisdom figure. What, in closing, 1 or 2 pearls of wisdom you would share with the world today from your beautiful life trajectory?
Get out there and enjoy life and don't let anything stop you. When I was 10 years old, I had a back operation because I have scoliosis. And, that could have let me just sit back and not do anything, but it just made me know that I'm not going to let that stop me and I'm just going to enjoy life. I'm going to bring others with me to enjoy life. And if I see something I want to do, I'm just going to do it. So that's how I've approached everything. I just want to do it and I want to bring people with me to do it. And I'm still, I'm still surprised when people come in and say, I heard about you. I'm like, where'd you hear about me? They said, you've been all over the place. A lot of people know you. And that still surprises me because I don't know why people would really remember me, It's like I'm just out here just doing my thing, as they say.
Living life.
Yeah, living life, and then just just
You live it well.
being with people, and my kids.
Beautiful.
And which school kids call me Grandma Morgan.
Grandma
But
Morgan.
I told them to call me Grandma Morgan because they said, you're just like my grandma. Like I am your grandma in school, so you have to do what I tell you to.
Well, at the end of the day, we all know around here that we all report to you, Sharon.
No, they don't. But yeah, they do. And I'm so appreciative that people they do give me that respect. And even from early on, they brought all of the bad troubled kids to me. Miss Morgan, you talk to them, because the kids, and I would just sit there and listen, talk to them and tell them about my life. And I'm not going to tell you what to do, but here's what happened to me when I did it. You decide what you want to do. I'm just telling you how I did it. Now you decide if that's what you want in your life or not. And then most often they say, no. Right. I've already did it, so don't do it.
Thanks, Dow. And thank you to StoryCorps for this opportunity to share our story this morning.
Yes, I had a great time. Even though Ed I had all these questions I wanted to ask Ed, and he asked all the questions that made me talk the whole time.